Good evening, Broncos country. Welcome to the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast, brought to you by Rocky Mountain Sports Network, sponsored by the amazing Morgan Trinkets. And my name is Keith Brugman. I'm going to be joined by a couple of great friends. We're going to be talking about, this Denver Broncos team, this Denver Broncos season, this Denver Broncos loss versus the Buffalo Bills, and maybe get into a little bit of the projections moving forward. But like I said, my name is Keith Brugman. I'm not alone. Got to welcome into the gentleman just to the side of me, Mr. Mile High Albert Dutchie. How we doing, Dutchie?
I am doing great. It was an exciting season. Fortunately, we didn't make it further in the playoffs, but it was expected. The Bills were a team, and I think they could make it into the Super Bowl. And they won fair and square. They were the better team last Sunday. But yeah, we can keep our heads up high, because it was an excellent season, much better than expected. So kudos to the Broncos.
Kudos as well. Kudos to Scott. He's coming in here saying the Broncos have bumps and bruises. Fans are bums. Still a better season than the rest of the country expected. Always better when we're able to welcome in, even if he's a little under the weather, Mr. Kenny Kirkpatrick of the K&K Sports Show. Kenny, I know you're getting over the hump of a little bit of cold, so thank you so much for joining in here, giving an outside perspective on our Denver Broncos versus the Buffalo Bills.
Well, no, Keith, appreciate the invite. Anytime I can hang out with the horsemen and the posse on the Denver Bronco Roundup, I'm going to be there. I'm just glad you didn't invite me on Sunday because not only was it, the Broncos lost, but I was in bad shape on Sunday. So I'm doing much better now. I'm on some meds, and I'm ready to get the show started tonight. Thanks again for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If you guys don't know Kenny, obviously we're getting a lot of welcomes and love for Kenny in the comments already, but Kenny is part of the amazing K&K Sports Show. They have fantastic shows. In fact, Kenny, I'll even give you a little bit of time. You're going to be on tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah, we're going to be doing tomorrow night. Thanks, Keith. We'll do it short and sweet. We'll plug Kurt's show, Let's Talk Broncos. Kurt and his wife, Jen, will be on tomorrow, 10 Eastern. Be sure to tune into that because Kurt will bring his East Coast flair to Broncos show. And the only way Kurt knows how to do it. Mm-hmm. And before that, we'll be doing our K&K Sports Show. So, unfortunately, we'll be talking about the teams that are still in the playoffs. And we'll be talking some college football. So come check us out tomorrow and hang out with us before Kurt's Broncos show.
Sounds great, Kenny. We're going to be talking this Denver Broncos loss versus the Buffalo Bills. Again, better than expected season. A lot of people said maybe we backed into the playoffs in order to get this matchup. But that being said, there was a lot of talk leading into this game of this maybe being the upset of the weekend, maybe this being the more competitive games, especially when you start talking about a second seed versus a seventh seed. And Kenny, I want to start with you, man. It came out of the gate that way with the Denver Broncos. Finally, a Troy Franklin connection happened. We get on the board. We were up early, looking pretty dang good.
You nailed it, Keith. You put a highlight on you sent it into the group chat. You sent it on Facebook. You talked about it on Denver Bronco Roundup. You've been waiting for that Knicks to Franklin connection. I hope this is things to come next year and years to come because I always loved that quarterback receiver combo, college to pros, Jamar Chase, Burrow, for example. But get back to the game, that first drive, Keith, you saw a mixture of runs. You saw a pass to Franklin, You saw him spreading the ball out. Wow, what's going on here? We might have a chance. Like we're going places. So that first drive was tremendous.
Yes.
It was great to see Franklin Nix connect, and then it disappeared. And I don't know why it disappeared, but it disappeared. I know we're going to get into it, but I really was excited on that first drive, and then holding the Bills to 3, coming back was big too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We look like we were in control early. Dutchy, I don't know about you, man. I jumped off the couch, man. I was yelling, I was screaming. I thought we were right in it with that first series, man. It was looking pretty dang good. And yes, it was so great to see Nix and Franklin finally pair up, correct?
Yeah, and another piece of history for the record books. The first rookie QB and wide receiver connection and a touchdown in NFL history.
Yeah, NFL playoff history, yep.
And that they scored a touchdown in the playoffs. So that shows that there's only one way to go for the Broncos, and it's going up and further next year. Sean Payton always is talking about a 3-year plan. Well, this is year 1 of the plan, because Bo Nix got drafted this year. And I think the next 2 years is going to be very, very exciting. And then I think the Broncos will have dominance over the AFC West in maybe next year or the year thereafter, and then we will keep it for a couple of years.
Albert's already talking about the next 2 years. I'm just trying to get through the first series, but I understand where you're coming from, Albert. And we're excited about our team and what they're able to put together. And that first series was very exemplary of what we want and what we expect from this Denver Broncos team. What I expect is this posse just going off this evening, just like you always do. Ernie Mays coming in here saying, "Go Broncos country only." Bo Nix for 6. Hello, Keith Dutchy and Jody. And the Bills, Trevor. Ernie's not, he doesn't like it when we choose against the Broncos, and Trevor's done that a few times. But our good friend Scott coming in over on YouTube saying, "I don't blame Bo or anyone specifically. The entire team cannot put together 4 complete quarters." Mr. Roy Osborne coming in here saying, "Good evening, Horseman, Kenny, and the posse." And Mr. Phil McLaughlin coming in here dropping stars saying, "Good evening, Keith Dutchy and special guest Kenny. Gotta get us some running backs. Great season and a great team." Kenny, I'll go back over to you. We'll go back around the horn a little bit. That running game was something that we might as well just get into it, that did not get going. I know that you're sharing some stats before we went live, and it was a big key piece of why, at least from the offensive side of the game, we didn't get going.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about just moments ago. Got off to the fast start, 7-7. Got the first touchdown, up 7-zip. Bills come back 7-3. I would have liked to see more balance in the attack, where it was more, throw some runs in there. The pass, Williams led the team in carries with 7 carries for the whole game. When you had a lead to start the game, and it was only 10-7 at the half. Why is your leading running back only have 7 carries when he's averaging 4 yards a carry? He had 30 yards on 7 carries. That's the problem I have. If he's got 7 carries and 7 yards, then maybe we're looking elsewhere. Like McLaughlin had 2 for -2. You didn't see any of him. But Williams was running the ball effectively. And effectively, I mean forward. When you get 4 or 5 yards a carry, you're going to move the sticks. Why did Sean go off that would be my question to everybody in the posse. And is it acceptable to go off of it? Because I don't know, if you don't have a run game, when a run game averages 4 yards a carry, that's a run game to me.
I agree, man. I agree. Albert, I'll switch it over to you, man. Why do you think that we didn't get the run game more involved? What was your thoughts behind that, man?
I don't know what is in Sean Payton's mind, but if I could guess, he doesn't want to play all the cards yet. Like I said, he has a 3-year plan. What is going to bring them the future? So he might not put it all out there yet, and he doesn't want to. So keep it a little bit of a secret for next year. and then come with a complete plan. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he doesn't trust the players he has right now. Well, there are so many questions there. We cannot see into. Unfortunately, I cannot see into Sean Payton's head, but it is right now. It is just all guessing what it is. Maybe he doesn't. He just doesn't trust it.
If I can add one thing, Keith.
Yes, sir.
I agree with him not trusting, but you got to give Nix. I give him all the credit in the world, this kid, rookie. And to me, he's the rookie of the year over Jaden Daniels, because what else Nix didn't have? Peyton's not giving him a run game. And what's your second best secret weapon as a quarterback? Your tight ends. Your tight ends had 2 catches in this game for 4 yards. What else do you want this rookie quarterback to do? Peyton should have ran the ball at least 10 to 12 more times in this game to take a little more of the pressure off of Bo Nix. And Nix played a hell of a game. He didn't make many mistakes at all. But you gotta make, you can't be one dimensional. And one dimensional is Sutton, and that's it. You got one guy.
Yeah.
Mims didn't do anything in this game, but Mims has been good the last few weeks. But you got no tight ends. You gotta establish a run game. You gotta. And that's on the fault of the head coach. When you're gaining yards on the run game, that's your head coach with his play sheet calling a lot of pass plays instead of run plays, and not getting the time of possession, winning the time of possession because of it.
And we talked a little bit before this. I got to push back on this, because if you look at Bo Nix, he only had 22 attempts. And I know that you'd like to see more rushing attempts as well, but it wasn't like we were passing the ball all over the place. It was efficiency. When we needed to get a first down, we didn't. When we needed to get a catch, we had way too many drops. When we needed to get 5 yards, it seemed like we got 4. It was just scenarios that played out to the point that this Denver Broncos team was punting, was turning over on downs, was doing anything but actually producing yardage and points. And the one time that we do get enough yardage to get into field goal range, well, we doinked that one off the uprights as well. So it just seemed like everything started playing against us. And to me, this was a game that I was really disappointed as I went back and I watched the All-22 film, just watching the trenches, whether it be on the offensive side or the defensive side, didn't seem like they got anything done. Albert, I know that we talked a little bit about that run game. Do you feel it was we had more opportunity to run the ball and we should have taken advantage of that? Or were you happy with the run pass mix in this? And then I got to get into the comments, because from Pearl to Michael to Adam to Ernie, we got tons of people I got to get a hold of.
If you only have 22 plays, you will never come into a rhythm. You cannot get into a rhythm. The only way you can get into the rhythm is, by running the ball and taking time of possession. And we didn't have that. And let's not forget, the Bills defense stepped up big time, because they did an extremely well job this time. And if you cannot get into a rhythm, then no matter what you try, it's not going to happen. You could see it in the drop passes. Yeah. One way or the other, it went not. It didn't go the Broncos' way this time.
Yeah.
And it is okay. It really is okay.
Good friend Michelle coming in here and saying, welcome, Posse, and evening, gents. Our good friend Michael Ronquillo jumping in over on Facebook, dropping some stars as well, saying, good evening, Keith, Albert, and Kenny, and Go Bo Broncos. We got Pearl coming in and saying hello. This had me concerned, especially when we found this out. Bo had a pretty good year for playing games with fractured vertebrae in his back. If you don't know, late in the Vegas game, Bo actually ended up fracturing a couple of vertebrae in his back. And as Michael's also coming in here and saying, so he's been playing injured on top of it. He went out there, man. He was the leading rusher, if I remember correctly, in this game as far as overall yards, and really put it out there on the line. the more I went back and I looked over this season, I thought about this season, and we talked a little bit about the last 4 or 5 games. Bo Nix has been pulling this Denver Broncos team all the way in this last little stretch, whether it be the defense struggling down the way. I mean, outside of a Kansas City game to end the season to get us into the playoffs, this defense has had struggles. This Denver Broncos offense hasn't been able to produce, as Kenny, you said, from a running back or a tight end perspective, not just in this game, but for several weeks, if not the entire year. Bo Nix has done an amazing, amazing job. Adams coming in here, Bo playing hurt, prove how strong he really is. Pearl's coming back in. I'm thrilled with the season the Broncos had, but looking forward to the addition of some playmakers for this team. Roy, man, after that first drive, the Bills stole our Bronco and drug our butt all over the schoolyard. Our good friend Jeremy Dressler, at least mine, coming in and saying, "Sup, fellas, go Broncos." Lutz kicking the ball more than our running backs are each carrying the ball. Laugh out loud, said Scott Sigley. Yeah, so it seems at times we have more field goal attempts and extra point attempts than running attempts in the yard in the game. I'm sorry. So Rodney Garcia is coming in over on YouTube. Says, what was up with Javonte stumbling when he gets the ball? This past game, his equilibrium is off. We saw it one time. They pointed it out, Albert. You probably saw it when he dumped it over the middle to Javonte Williams, and they're like, man, that could have been a 40-yard pickup if he wouldn't have lost his feet there. Did seem like he was, I don't know, maybe it was just nerves or something, but Javonte also had some little bit of issues as well.
It might have to do with the cleats as well. The weather is, even although it was not snowy and stuff, I don't think that the field was, utmost advantageous for everybody. It probably was slippery, so it could happen there as well. Yeah, you never know that. And by the way, that broken back injury that Bo Nix had, that happened to me in the military. So I know what it is, how to work with that one. There's nothing they can do except for painkillers, and you have to suffer through it. So I know how it feels, and yeah, that takes my head off even wider for Bo Nix.
Absolutely. Kenny, answer Rodney Garcia. He says he really wanted to know why Sean decided to have Estime inactive. Of course, we had Tyler Bidet. They did become active for this game. He did get a couple of carries in there, actually one pretty good one. Why Estime not being active in this game? Why Bidet called up and very little usage as it was would it even have made a difference?
I think Bidet was called up because I do think if the situation was in right play, right spot on the field, I think he had a couple trick plays lined up possibly for Bidet or Bidet in the game. I just don't think it's set up for that. Estime being inactive, I think it was a numbers game, and I think it was because they wanted Bidet in there for some trick plays or formation or something. So yeah. I just think it was Estime was the odd man out there. But I do think Bidet was a trick play, trick formation type of thing in a certain time spot on the field, and we just didn't see it because of, like we said earlier, the situations weren't there. It didn't come to.
I got to bring this one up. Phil McLaughlin says our offense couldn't get going because our D couldn't stop anything. D-line sucked. Look at the time of possession. I looked at it right after the game. It was basically 18 minutes to 42 minutes. That's not a winning statistic for the Denver Broncos. You'll never winning a game, never end up winning a game when your opponent gets more than 2/3 of the possession time. I just can't imagine how that works out in your favor. This is what I gotta say, though, man. I gotta agree. This D line and had issues and definitely struggled. It didn't matter if it was Zach Allen or John Franklin Meyer. He had a rough game as well. even in the middle, you talk about Roach and DJ Jones, because what I saw was a running back that didn't ever get stopped at the first level. And we were looking to try to get him to stop in the second level before he got to the third level. This was a game that was very much lost at the line, but this is the one place I'll kind of push back. Kenny, I'm done. I am done watching this defense, especially versus mobile quarterbacks, decide they're not going to dictate. They're not going to dictate on the defensive line front, and they're going to try to do gap integrity and go back to really what we saw last year. I thought that was a big mistake going into this game. We saw it all game. What are your thoughts on that, Kenny? And I want to get your thoughts as well, Albert.
Yeah, I mean, you tell me you go into this game and you want to stop Josh Allen, that's fine. Okay. If James Cook beats me, that's fine. But Josh Allen's stats, 20-26 passing, 272 with 2 touchdowns. You didn't stop the pass neither. So Vance Joseph has to be part of the blame here. Part of the blame we're seeing, like, I was concerned, maybe some of these guys overachieved. Not Nick Bonito, not Jonathan Cooper, but your depth behind these guys. Cedric Tillman, is it Cedric Tillman? Is
DeAndre Tillman?
DeAndre Tillman. He's been in the game. These are names that are not going to play on half the teams in the league, and they're getting meaningful time here. I don't know if I completely fault these guys. I just think that they're worn out. We've seen it for 4 weeks now that they've been, since we said it earlier, keep the Browns game. Browns offense scored how much on you guys? And then the week after, I know Kurt always says adjustments, but what kind of adjustments can you make when you don't have a depth on your team? When you got one-dimensional guys, you can't do much with that. And that's why the offseason is going to be very big, not just for the offense, but you're going to get some big defensive guys on this offseason too. So I do see that. And, there's some concerns, go get what you got to do in the offseason. But yes, stopping the mobile quarterbacks was key, and you didn't do it. And you didn't do it in this game neither, as Josh Allen had 50 yards rushing, and Cook and even the backup, Ty Johnson, had 9 rushes for 45 yards. I mean, there was no stopping the run. I could have been in the backfield and gained 3-4 yards, with the holds that they were producing. So unacceptable, but expected on a young team that's probably fatiguing and overachieved early in the year. And I hate to say that.
Albert, your thoughts, man. We've seen 2 styles of defense, throughout this year. We've seen the aggressive, get downfield, get after the quarterback style. We've seen those times where we think, hey, that quarterback, it could hurt us if we get into those positions. They can bail outside that pocket and scramble for big yards. So we do a little bit more gap integrity, a little bit more non-aggressive approach towards getting after that quarterback. That's where we went with this one, trying to also surround James Cook and keep Allen trapped in. Was it the right call? Was it the wrong call? As Pearl said, should we have made more adjustments? Because she feels like VJ made no adjustments in the game. Your thoughts on that, man?
My thoughts is 2 names, Jewell and Singleton. They were missed. And I think in the last 4 games, those 2 were missed very heavily. If we had them, I think the run would have been stopped better in all 4 games, and they make it so much easier. And yeah, we are missing to the inside linebackers. We are missing those. Stannard is not the answer. And Drew Sanders, I have not seen much of him, but he could be that person, but we need to see more of him. And we have hardly seen him play. How many snaps has he played? Maybe 20, 30 this year. So that's where it is, an inside linebacker. That's where we need some upgrades. And I think if we do that, I think next year we should be fine.
I'll add one more in because I like this one as well. Rodney saying, no pressure from our edge rushers. That was kind of an issue as well, because our edge rushers, as much as I love Nick Bonito, as much as I love Jonathan Cooper, the better the best edge rusher probably in this entire game was probably DeAndre Tillman when he came in on the edge, because those guys are small. And when we went up against this Buffalo Bills team, man, it was tough. It was tough to try to get around the edge, to try to get some pressure. And again, we weren't necessarily going all out trying to get to Josh Allen, but it felt like we got a little bit manhandled. And when strength was needed on the edges, it wasn't there when we had Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper out there, and it ended up being a better game for a DeAndre Tillman type. As good as we feel about those edge rushers, that's one place that I still think along this defensive front that we could use some help as well. Yeah. We need to get talking probably about that and I'm looking at comments, so I get a little bit distracted, but that inside linebacker position, Albert, you kind of talked about it. I'll agree. And Alex Singleton, I don't know if Josie Jewell would have necessarily helped out. I think, the Carolina Panthers got Josie Jewell. They paid him well. I don't know if he's making a big difference over there. I think it's a place that we could use some upgrades regardless. And the posse is definitely, pushing that out there, but I guess if you really look after it, this is a position group that we had issues dating all the way back to Jonas Griffith getting injured, and he was going to be a big key part before the season even started. And, now we probably won't see a Jonas Griffith, but you compound that on top of an Alex Singleton, and then Drew Sanders, dealing with injury. There was definitely some plans there that didn't necessarily pan out for the Denver Broncos, and we had to kind of adjust on the fly. Worked out for most of the season, but in these games against big opponents, sometimes it's just too much, Kenny. And I think you're right that, again, this is a team that's young and doesn't have a whole lot of depth. And it'll be interesting to see what we'll be able to do in order to try to rectify that going forward.
Absolutely, Keith. Absolutely. Just looking at the comments too, I was just sending something to Rodney about some inside linebacker, Dre Greenlaw. As a Giants fan, I think for your Broncos guys, Isaiah Simmons is a hybrid linebacker type, safety type of player that I think Broncos should seriously look about adding into in the off season. So just wanted to throw that out there. I was going to put it in the chat, but since you went to me, I figured I'd respond to Rodney there.
Yeah.
Dre Greenlaw is another good one, though. So I know you guys are going to have the off-season shows coming up, and I look forward to that because I do have a lot of possibilities for the Broncos in the off-season. That'll be fun to chat with you guys with that. But I got one for you guys, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, go right ahead, buddy.
And the posse, too. What were your thoughts about Sean and VJ getting into it on the sidelines towards the end of the game on Sunday? I'll go to whoever wants to take it first.
Albert, you'd mentioned it a little bit. You heard a little bit about it. What are your thoughts about the frustrations at the end kind of boiling over against each other?
I think that is just fine, and it should be, because that shows emotion, that they are, excited, frustrated, that they have intentions in the game, and that they want to be the best they can be. If you show frustrations, it doesn't go the way it goes. Absolutely, you can show that in the field, and we have seen it between Sean Payton and Bo Nix. But what matters in the end is, how do you finish the game? How do you finish as colleagues on the field? And that is what matters most. And I don't think that they are enemies. I think they just had a little bit of a heated conversation, and I don't think we should look too much into it. We will see what the future brings. VJ might get a lot of head coaching interviews, and he might no longer be with the Broncos. And if that is the case, good luck to him. But if he comes back next year, I think we will see a better defense.
Nice. Kenny, honestly, when I saw it, I think that was as much about Sean Payton as it was about Vance Joseph. Sometimes when you're frustrated with yourself, you end up taking it out on other people. And I think Sean Payton was as frustrated with what he was doing on offense, only getting 7 points on the board, as he was with his defensive counterpart, giving up 31 on the other side of it, man. But they play into each other, man. You can't sit there and say that was all Vance Joseph's fault when you're over there talking about punt, turnover on downs. You're not helping that defense out. So, I mean, VJ had every right to be maybe pushing back, which it looked like he kind of stood his own in the little glimpse that we got.
Yeah, and the only problem, like Dutchie didn't have a problem with it, and I'm looking at the comments. If you got a problem with it, Sean, with the run game, you should have said something in the locker room at halftime or shortly in the third quarter if it continued. You should not wait until there's only a few minutes left in the game and then get on it. That to me is almost a scapegoat, like you were just saying. Your frustrations are coming out, so you're going to blame somebody, like you said, Keith. So yeah, I just wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were on that, and we're glad we got that out in the public, our opinions on it.
Yeah. I'm going to double down too, because Phil comes in and says Peyton, and I saw this too, said in his presser that he didn't expect the Bills would be able to run that good against us. A shot at VJ, in my opinion, and I kind of agree with that, man. When he went in there, seemed like he was biting his tongue in that post-game presser right after this loss. You barely get to address your team. You're shoved out in front of a microphone. And that's one of the things he did say. He didn't expect that this team would be able to run on us like this. And it did kind of feel like, hey, I expected more from our defense, and more importantly, our defensive coach and the staff to put together the game plan that allowed this to happen. So it was disappointing. And you had to agree with Peyton. You wouldn't expect that they would be able to run roughshod all over you all dang game. I can't really blame Sean Payton in thinking and saying that. You know what I mean? And as much as he could have just thrown in somebody underneath the bus, and I think that Sean has a hard time almost sometimes holding back his words. I think he did pretty well in doing so. It's always fun to watch Sean up at the presser kind of take a moment and think about, how he wants to reformulate what he would really like to say. So I think in sometimes. So Sean wanted to blame him for no reason because we were losing, laugh out loud. But this is the one I really liked. Sean does need to be held accountable, and some blame from this game. Flipping over to the offensive side, and then we'll hit a little sponsorship break here real quick. But disappointing on both sides. This is the one thing I'll say, and I want you guys to think about this. Maybe I'll run through the sponsorship read. We'll pick it up on the other side. But this team was not a team on offense or on defense that showed like they dictated at any point. And I think that's something that absolutely needs to happen if you're going to be a playoff winning team. Sean needed to dictate more in this game. And I'm going to hold true to that. I'll get your guys' thoughts on that. But first, I need to tell everybody about our amazing, amazing sponsor, and that's Morgan Trinkets. Morgan Trinkets has over 34 years experience selling Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, estate gold at wholesale prices. Once a nationwide company, now they're just in your backyard, northern Colorado, southern Wyoming. And they're touring, they're doing shows. I'm telling you, if there's a gem show going on, if there's a fair going on with a show, they're probably there in that area. But that's not the only way you can check out Morgan Trinkets. Head on over to Etsy. That's Etsy, because I almost stumbled over a word there for a second, and type in Morgan Trinkets Co. That's Morgan Trinkets Co. Telling you, fantastic pieces. Like I said, Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, estate gold, wholesale prices. Also, silver, all 100% sterling silver, and any purchase over $50 shipped absolutely free. All major credit cards are taken. You got to check out Morgan Trinkets. That's Morgan Trinkets over on Etsy, Morgan Trinkets Co. So, Albert, why weren't we able to dictate in this game? What held us back from dictating, whether on offense or defense? I'm really on the offensive side of things, but what was the issue there, man? How come we couldn't get anything going?
Yeah, like I said, if the defense can get the opposing offense not off the field, you will never get into a rhythm. It is like you go on a treadmill and you're on a treadmill for 30 seconds, then somebody else wants to have the treadmill for a couple minutes, and then you go back on. You will never get into a rhythm because there is none. So that was the major problem. If you have only 22 plays, how can you blame Sean Payton for not being more aggressive or that kind of stuff? He was aggressive. What about the fake punt?
Punt, but then go for the field goal or go for it on 4th and 4 to continue that drive. That's the thing that killed me. You go for a fake field goal and then you punt from the 42-yard line.
Yeah, certain things do not make sense, but probably because Sean Payton didn't think it might not even work, and he had no further plan. He didn't even think it through, maybe. But yeah, he is surprising, and I think we will get to see way more schemes and fun surprises in the coming years, especially when we have a running offense attached to our offense. I think our future can be very. It is already, our offense is already really exciting to see. And even although this game was maybe not so much, because you only had 22 plays, but all in all, what happened is the future is bright for the Denver Broncos offense because it only can get better and better. I don't think it will get much worse. It only can get better.
Let's hope it doesn't get worse. Phil McLaughlin, let's face it, both coaches did not call their best game, which is inexcusable in a playoff game. Certainly, like I said, Kenny, not one that dictated. Why weren't, we went through the defensive side and all the struggles we had over there, and whether it be Josh Allen or a running game that just completely got away from us, from a defensive standpoint. But when you get the ball back, you still have an opportunity to dictate on offense. I really thought this was going to be a high scoring game. If we were going to come out the winner, it was high scoring on one side, but not on the other. Why couldn't we dictate, even if we weren't running the ball like you wanted to? How come we couldn't get it going in the passing game either?
Well, besides Sutton, who had 75 yards on 5 receptions, your number 2 wide receiver, Mims, last few weeks, he only had 2 catches for 12 yards. Franklin had the 2 with a touchdown. That was first drive. He got most of those yards. You want to know the difference, the biggest difference in this game? And it doesn't sound like much, but the Bills tight ends, 80 yards. The Broncos tight ends, 4 yards. That's a big reason why you didn't do much in this game. I know it wasn't there all year, but you got to give Bo Nix something. And guys, you're going to get some playmakers next year. So just like Malik Neighbors, I'm a Giants fan. We need a quarterback. Bo Nix needs a playmaker. Get Bo Nix a playmaker, you're going to go places. But the tight ends, 2 catches for 4 yards, that's unexcusable in a playoff game. You got to get this kid some help underneath. You can't be just throwing the ball downfield every play. Get him some middle, 5 to 10 yard patterns with the tight ends. Get him some help. And it's not there. It hasn't been there all year. And it was totally absent in this game. You like to see maybe 2-3 big catches from your tight end, but 0, you're not going to win many playoff games without any tight end help. Sorry.
Fair enough. I know this one came in a while ago. I know that you even answered it in the comments, but I'm going to put you on the spot right on the screen, Kenny. Yeah. Kenny, can the Buffalo Bills beat the Baltimore Ravens? Man, this is
100%.
I think this is going to be the biggest. I think this is going to be the best playoff game in the entire playoffs, in my opinion. This is the game to watch now. But your thoughts are absolutely, huh?
Absolutely. I think Buffalo, because they're home, because they got the home field advantage here. But I made the bold prediction that if Buffalo beat Denver, I can't go against it now because I do feel this way. I said Denver was going to be Buffalo's toughest matchup. in the playoffs. I just felt like I thought that they would have stopped the run. It didn't happen, but that's in the past. I thought Buffalo was going to have their toughest matchup this past week. Buffalo's going to the Super Bowl. They're going to beat the Ravens, and they're going to beat either the Texans or the Chiefs on Championship Sunday, and they'll be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. So yes, Michael, I do think they're going to beat the Ravens, and I think they're going to the Super Bowl.
There you go, man. Got that run in them, and maybe take home a title for the first time in a very long time. Like, what, Buffalo Bills ever?
No, they lost
right?
the 4 in a row.
Yeah, they lost the 4 in a row. I was talking about that when we were when the game was going, but I was like, wait, they haven't won at all, have they? In the NFL championship? I don't believe they have. Am I wrong? Anyway, this isn't a Bills show. It's a Broncos show, so we'll bring it back around as it is anyway. Boy, it will be interesting. Albert, we might as well get into this just a little bit because we've been talking about, why we didn't get production, why we weren't able to dictate, and a lot of people have been talking about the weapons that Bo Nix has. What are your thoughts? If you had to put priority one on a position, where would your priority one be?
Priority one for me would be tight end. I think if the tight end can open up the playbook a little bit, then I think the defenses are going to have to protect a little bit more on the tight end side. So it might open up gaps for the running backs. And next year or next season, the Broncos are looking pretty good in draft capital. They have $100 million in draft capital. And from what I hear, if they can even extend Josh Allen his contract, because he is up for
Zach Allen,
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
He is up for a new contract. If they do it before the season ends, they can use gain even more in draft capital. So draft capital is not going to be a problem. They need to get a good tight end. They need to get maybe another running back and a wide receiver, and a true one wide receiver. Because in most teams, Cortland Sutton, he has done great this year. But in a lot of other teams, he is a number 2 and not a number 1. And I think we need a true number 1 wide receiver. And if that happens, then we have an offense like Josh Allen available.
Fair enough. He went through a lot. I asked him for one. He put priority one on tight end. Kenny, where are you putting priority one when it comes to weapons for one, Mr. Bo Nix?
I got a double dip, but I got to say why a receiving tight end. And Rodney put a name out there, Mike Gesicki. I like that name. I would even think about trading. Jaguars have Evan Ingram. I think they're going to try and clean house and go complete rebuild. I think Evan Ingram would be a good pickup for the Broncos, or drafting somebody in the draft. But a receiving tight end, Darren Waller type, you've seen Darren Waller for many years. Darren Waller type of tight end, slightly over the running back, because you have a stubborn head coach that refuses to run the ball a lot. You're averaging 4 yards a carry with mediocre running backs. I can deal with that. I can't deal with 2 catches for 4 yards in a playoff game from my tight ends. So tight end is definitely top priority for me over running back.
And you know what? Maybe just playing a little devil's advocate, I'll go the opposite side. And the reason being is because I think the ability to hit on a running back, you should have better odds. Let's face it, there's a lot of teams that go out there, they try to get the tight end, they try to get the big weapon that's the tight end. I mean, you could go as far as looking at the Atlanta Falcons and taking the number 4 overall pick and going with Kyle Pitts. And what has Kyle Pitts done for the Atlanta Falcons? I can tell you what, he's not all pro. He's not knocking it out of the park. And so it's I think, as far as percentages wise, go out there, get your running back, get the guy that you need. You should be able to find a guy that can, again, get downhill, whether through free agency or through the draft, and make that investment, man. I think a balanced running game could be very good. This is the one thing that I don't want to see. And this is the reason I brought this question to you, and I brought it to the posse, I guess, as well. But that being said, we just got Marvin Mims just a couple of years ago. We just invested in Troy Franklin. We have Cortland Sutton, and hopefully we'll probably have to be talking about a contract in the near future for Cortland Sutton, since, you know, we had to dig a little bit deeper in our pockets this last offseason to get him in to the building and into OTAs. But you've got receivers that you've invested in. Now you can go out there and you can try to get another receiving tight end and try to, like, you know, spread that around one more spot. But that running game would be key if you can get that going. If you can get a big running game going, that opens it up for everybody. So I want to put running back in front of tight end, as much as I would love to see that tight end come in. And again, a legit tight end. We've been watching it for years with, unfortunately, our rival in the AFC West and one Travis Kelce and what he's able to do. You get a guy like that, and yes, it can be absolutely game changing.
You know what, Keith? Like, you've had it in the past. You've had, you know, Shannon Sharp. You've had Julius Thomas. You've had tight ends in the past. So, you know, I just see, I could see both. You know, I could definitely see with Sean Payton's offense both. Oh, quick question. Speaking of Sean Payton, he'd be a hybrid type of player. You call the Saints. They're going to bring in a new head coach. Do you call the Saints and try and get Taysom Hill over here? Little gadget type player. Or do you just, no, you don't want no part of that?
I'll go with Dutchie first. What are you thinking about one Taysom Hill out of New Orleans Saints? I'll get my opinion second.
I don't think we need a gadget player. I think we need a player that can be on the field at least 2/3 of all the snaps and not a joker. Because if you put a joker on there like Taysom Hill, people know there's something special going to happen, and they're going to prepare for it. They know what is coming. So it has to be something that a tight end or wide receiver or running back that can be there for most of the snaps all the time. That is what we need, not a gadget player.
And I'm kind of in agreement, Kenny. I think that's something that you'd love to see added in as an additional benefit once you're kind of there, right? You know, to have that joker. I know that's a role that and a term that our good friend Sean Payton has used a lot, you know, and he's used several names when he's been talking about that joker role. But I really think that's a luxury item, not a key piece like the pieces that we're talking about. This team, up until the last game of the season, we didn't know if they're a playoff team. You know, we still have core needs on this team in order to make sure that we are a solid playoff team heading forward. And I think we need someone kind of like Albert alluded to, someone that we can go out there and trust on a play in, play out, to be out there and not, you know, not distract, I guess. So Phil McLaughlin, guys, let's face it, we do not have a number one tight end, a running back, a wide receiver. It's easier to say we have a number two. We have two number ones, PS2 and Bo, in my opinion. It's funny, you know. The one thing that's amazing to me is, I guess, you know, like I thought I had a lot of love from the posse around all these players, and I think now the end of the season's come, we're starting to see just a little bit about, you know, hey, we could use some help, and maybe these guys aren't at the top like we thought. Rodney Garcia has a question, and I'm going to roll with the posse here before we get out of here. Maybe get some thoughts in here. Be fantastic to be coming back and breaking down this team and breaking down the future needs. But he says, do you guys think Troy Franklin will pan out? I don't know about him. For some reason, I just don't see it working out. Kenny, I'll start with the outside perspective, man. It's sometimes a little bit easier from a guy that doesn't get so involved, like we just said, in this team. What do you think of a Troy Franklin?
Real quick, Roddy, I've been having fun chatting with you on the side as well. So this is a good question. I'm glad you brought this up. I'm going to answer this in two ways. I think he will pan out if you don't go get that number one wide receiver next year. Meaning like that big name of T. Higgins. I'll just throw a name out there, T. Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you stick with what you got, Sutton, Mims, and Vile, I think Franklin will pan out. If you go and get an upgrade in free agency, I think he's going to be lost in the mix.
That's fair. That's fair. Albert, same thought process, or where do you feel Troy Franklin lands on this team?
I think Troy Franklin's future could be very bright. This is his next year will be his third year in the season, and we saw what happened with Mims. They just need to get the opportunities to play more and get more reps under their belt. I think they will drop. They will pan out, and they will be better and better. Mims and Franklin going to be weapons for Bo Nix, but they need the reps. And right now, certain reps are being taken away with other players like Little Jordan Humphrey and stuff. Yeah, if that doesn't happen, they will pan out. They will pan out. They will get better.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting mix of wide receivers. I always felt like Franklin and Mims kind of felt similar in their roles. And so how do you pair it? What do you put on the field? How do you get the reps? It's been difficult, like you said, not only trying to get three wide receivers, but when you start adding in fourth and fifth with Devon Vele or Little Jordan Humphreys, all of a sudden, again, it becomes tough to get distribution. It gets tough to get reps. It gets tough to get progress, and it's easy. I think you pointed out a great point because you start thinking about these names like Michael Ronquillo bringing up a Garrett Wilson, that might want out of the New York Jets. You bring in a guy like that, and it completely readjusts your roster. And a guy like Troy Franklin all of a sudden doesn't get those opportunities, Kenny. I think it will be very dependent. And I think that's a great insight into roster building and how quickly a guy like Troy Franklin can be shuffled out of the mix just because of the quality of talent that you invest in. If you invest in a guy like Garrett Wilson, it's not like you're going to say, well, I'm not sure if it's going to be Garrett Wilson or Troy Franklin this week who's going to get the start. That doesn't happen,
Right.
So great insight. I like that, man.
Quick question. How, off the top of your head, how many draft picks, or if you don't know, if the posse maybe knows, how many draft picks do the Broncos have this upcoming year?
I think we're only missing like 1 or 2 draft picks in the entire.
So you're around 8 or 9 picks.
Yeah.
Is what? Okay. Just be prepared. Garrett Wilson's going to cost. I wouldn't give up a first round pick, but it's going to cost a second round pick if you go get Garrett Wilson. In my opinion, you're not going to get a Garrett Wilson type of player for a fourth round pick. So you got to be prepared to give up a second round pick if you want Garrett Wilson, in my opinion. I got a trade package. I was asking, the reason why I was asking how many picks you got, Keith. This will solve tight end problem, and it'll give you at least an RB2, because I do think you need 2 running backs. I don't think you need 1. And you can go either get one in the draft or you can, get somebody else in free agency. Here's my plan for the Broncos real quick to solve running back and tight end. And it's not going to be the most popular names out there, but it's going to be my, solve the Broncos offense problems, guys. Jaguars are going to rebuild. This is my bold prediction. They are going to completely rebuild. They're going to trade Travis Etienne and Evan Engram. Broncos go get the running back and tight end. Like I said, Etienne could be an RB2. And there's a running back that's going to be a free agent that I think the Broncos can go get. And he's not the most popular name, but he's a heck of a running back. Go get Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, free agent, doesn't cost you any draft picks. Etienne and Engram, 2 in the same package, bring over two running backs now. You got two running backs and a tight end to solve part of your offseason. It's not going to be the most popular names out there, but it's going to help the Broncos offense, in my opinion.
That is one heck of a roster movement from both teams. You know what I mean? That's a big swing, man. But I like the idea. I like the mindset.
And Aaron Jones is just going to cost you money. So
I'll be honest, of the free agents that have been just kind of thrown out there, and we'll be talking a lot more of them. I'm more of a Najee Harris possibly over maybe a Aaron Jones, but hey, to each their own. I think that would be a guy like that might be coming down the pike.
And I really like Etienne's upside if he was to get traded. I just think he's fallen in bad terms down there in Jacksonville this past year.
I agree. I that's a guy I like. Officially, first round, second round, third round, fourth round, sixth. So a total of 7 picks. All of the first 4 rounds, but then for some reason, because of trades and the whole 9 yards, Cardinals, Eagles, you name it. We got 3 6th rounds, no 5th, no 7th. So that's the linear, the short and the long of our draft picks. So, gentlemen, I can't. Phil McLaughlin one. I'll just run through a few more. Franklin is playing the same way he did in Oregon. Drop some, make some. Difference is he had many more plays in Oregon. Hopefully, the coaches can help him turn it around. Also, can the Broncos offer me a 1-year deal, $5 million to play running back? Asked one Rodney Garcia. I had pull.
Can I be your agent, Rodney? We'll give we'll get the tryout set up there, my friend.
I was gonna say, if I had pull, I would do what I could, buddy.
And then fully guaranteed. So because the moment you get hurt, then you can stop playing.
There you go. Stub toe. I'm out.
Hangnail.
No. Yeah, there you go. Gentlemen, fantastic night. Talking about, honestly, it's disappointing. We know that there's still possibilities coming off of this loss versus the Buffalo Bills. But the thing is, I think as I looked at those two teams playing on the field, and I know that it was a big blowout, I saw more similarities and more possibilities of being there than I saw dissimilarities. I think for those, I know sometimes a good friend of the K&K Sports Show, but like James Marillac coming out and saying that these Denver Broncos are a fraud. They're not a fraud, man. This is a team that outperformed, that we're all dang proud of, and the future looks awfully dang bright. We just got to put a few more pieces together, and it's going to be amazing, I think, what this future brings for this Denver Broncos team and for Broncos country in years to come, man. I'm going to get some final goodbyes. I'm going to start with well, you know what? I'll give Albert. I've been going to Kenny, seems like all night. So Albert, I'm going to go to you first, at least on some final good nights and some final goodbyes as we wrap up this podcast this evening.
Yeah, this was an excellent show. And Posse, our Broncos are going to be a force to be reckoned with. It is not just, this is not a fluke or whatever you want to call it. This is a team that, yeah, they're going to start dominating the AFC West pretty soon again. It's not just from our perspective, but you see it with other many celebrities who are having all kinds of shows, like the Rick Eisen, you name them. The Broncos are going to be a force to reckon with. They need just a couple weapons, and the season will be very fun to watch. And I'm looking forward to next season. I'm looking forward to the draft to see what they're going to do in the free agency. It is going to be fun. And let's be excited for it, because the 10 wins was just the beginning. Next year we will have more, and we will get further in the playoffs. And it's going to be really exciting. But what is also exciting is, of course, our posse, because with you there, all the reactions and responses and the questions, it makes our lives so much easier. I want to thank Paul, Scott, Ernie, Roy, my lovely wife, Michelle, Phil, Pearl, Michael, Adam, and Kayla, Jeremy, Rodney, Clayton, and then there was some kind of Kenneth in there. I don't know what he was doing in there, but he was also on the show.
I was having a side chat with Rodney and Michael. There was so much chatting, just helping Keith out because it's hard to get all the comments up there. So there was some great side questions going on. So I had a nice little side chat with Rodney and Michael, and glad I was able to have that side chat with you guys.
Hey, Kenny, thank you for being there. It is always fun to have you on the show. It is always a little bit more not more exciting, but it is exciting when you are on there. It is exciting when Trevor and Jody are there, and who knows, maybe we can have a show that all of K&K and the Denver Bronco Roundup can be on one show. That would be fun. Let's have
Hollywood Squares.
that we can have a trivia show about why not have a trivia show about each other? Ask questions and
he's brainstorming. He's brainstorming, Keith. That the ideas are
so that we have a show that we can learn to know each other a little bit more. And let's open it up and have the posse involved as well.
The only downside, man, I'll have to upgrade and pay more and more and more into the streaming service because I can't get that many faces on the screen, buddy. But that's okay, man.
We can do it on Kenny's show.
There you go. Before I get to Kenny, I'll my head to Clayton because this really sums up a lot. And it sums up a lot from my side, and it sums up a lot from the posse who have rode with us all season long. Says, I had a hell of a season with you guys. Football talk, Bronco talk, and life talk. Great job, guys. Well, man, as Albert pointed out, man, it's nothing without the posse. It's nothing without all of you guys and gals coming in here, being a part of the show, being a part of the conversation, lively comments, great questions, side discussions that we can't get to, and Kenny even helps out with. Man, I'm telling you what, it was a winning season for us over here at DBR, all because of you, the posse. Can't help but be appreciative of that. Kenny, some goodbyes before we get out of here.
Yeah, no, great show, guys. Keith, Dutchy, thank you for inviting me. Always a pleasure to be with you guys. Chat, posse, you guys were awesome. I know I get some criticism from Mr. Mays, but my final thoughts, I think he may like what my final thoughts are going to be. And it's about the Broncos season. Outside perspective, I was not expecting much of Bo Nix to start the season. I didn't like Bo Nix to start the season. Well, my mind was changed about week 8. I started to change my mind. I think it was around week 10. I started to go choo-choo, and I hopped the Bo Nix train. I got no voice. I can't really do it, but, the steam engine's going right now. The Nix train will be back in force next year, but way ahead of schedule. Awesome getting to the playoffs for the first time in, 9 years?
Mm-hmm.
I'm making a bold prediction now. We had the 3 to 4 year window for the Broncos. I'm calling the Broncos a Super Bowl contender next year. Next year, as early as next year, the Broncos will be contending, be a legit Super Bowl contender next year, guys. Enjoy it. Got some time to think about it. Next season's going to be a big one because you're going to go places. You're going to be contending for the division and Super Bowl contenders next year. Go Broncos. I hope that makes you happy, posse. That's my bold prediction for the Broncos in the upcoming 2025 season.
And Sean Payton's going right down that same track as Michael is pointing out. He said, we need to find a way to play these games at home. You know what that means? That means we're taking the AFC West. So taking the AFC West, we're well on our road to a Super Bowl like Kenny's talking about. Kenny and Sean Payton are right on the same path. Kenny, thank you so much, man. Coming in here, coming off the mend, coming in here. I thought for sure we were going to lose a voice or have a coughing attack. He came in here. He did it like no other, like the stepfather, only can. Mr. Kenny Kirkpatrick. Check them out over on the K&K Sports Show tomorrow night will be a fantastic night. You can catch him early with the K&K Sports Show. You can check out his good partner over there, Kurt Valente, afterwards with the Let's Talk Broncos. And it got great things going over there at K&K, and we appreciate every time that he comes over here and spends a few minutes or an hour with us. So thank you, Kenny, very much, man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Well, that being said, man, just a reminder, now that season's over, we go live every Tuesday, every Friday, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Make sure that you're liking, sharing, subscribing to make sure that you never miss an episode. You never know, especially right around the corner with free agency and coaches possibly being hired away and the whole 9 yards. You never know when we might have to jump in here and do an on the spot type of podcast. So like, share, subscribe, make sure that you're never missing an episode, never missing the great faces of Kenny Kirkpatrick, Albert Mile High Dutchy, the Judge Moncrief, Trevor Rocker Man Salzman, or myself, Keith Brugman. That being said, we're going to get out of here like we always do, gentlemen, guys and gals. Thank you again to the posse jumping in here, making an amazing show. But we're going to get out of here like we always do. Make sure you keep your boots in the stirrups, guns in the holsters, and the Denver Broncos in your heart. Until next episode, we're going to get out of here. Mile High salute. Good night, everybody.